Eyesight, CBS Sunday Morning. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is David Pogue with CBS Sunday Morning. How do you hear me?
David, we hear you loud and clear. And good morning, CBS Sunday Morning.
Thank you so much for this thrilling opportunity. This may be the only chance I ever have to speak to a couple of extraterrestrials, so I'm going to try to keep it concise. I know the roaming charges are going to be insane, so that sound okay?
That sounds perfect. And Ike said he'll split the bill with you.
What a guy. Mike and Ike, how do you like that? You guys gave us a fantastic tour of the station. Thank you so much for that. But what does it sound like on board? Is it constant machinery thrumming? Do you guys ever blast music?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's constant machinery. But, you know, one of the ways I like to describe it is that the space station it's like it's alive. And when the times when I can really tell is at night before we're going to bed. And, you know, you might be the last one outside your crew quarters turning out all the lights, and you can just hear that hum of all that equipment, that heartbeat of the station, and you realize that this is what's keeping you alive up here. And the funny thing is, as well with that is, you know immediately when something changes. I mean, all of us, as soon as something has changed, you're like, hey, what's that? And sometimes you're calling down to the ground and say, hey, you guys doing anything behind this panel? And it turns out more often than not that, yeah, they were moving, switching some valves around or something like that.
And Victor, meanwhile, what does it smell like in there, especially when you first arrived? I mean, human beings are smelly.
You know, when I first arrived, I would say there was a noticeable scent, and it wasn't quite like a locker room. You know, it wasn't your old football pad sitting in a locker for a whole season, but it was just noticeable. And it's funny because I don't remember what it's like now. I would think because we've all been here for over 4 months, and the fact that we have the fluid shifts and our sinuses aren't working 100%, I don't really smell anything. Yeah. And now it just kind of smells like normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, but that's what it smells like.
Fantastic. The station's recently celebrated 20 years of being continuously occupied. Congratulations to the space station. Would you say anything has changed much in the last couple of decades? If the first crew arrived today, would they see any big changes?
Yeah, I definitely think those first crews, how much the station has grown. Realize that it took probably 10, 11 years just for the construction, even more than that, I think, actually, before the construction of the space station to get completed. And so that was just this constant adding of modules and capabilities and new racks, new exercise equipment, you name it. And so it's slowly been added over the years. So, yeah, if you went back to Bill Shepard and those first crews, they'd get up here and not recognize it at all.
Anything on your wish list for upgrades?
Well, you know, one of the things that those first crews may be pleasantly surprised about is the connectivity we have with the ground, the ability to keep in touch with our families. We have an IP phone and a phone based on our computers that we can call almost any time. So as long as we have satellite coverage, which is most of the time, and also the ability to do video conferences as well. And so the connectivity is good. However, it could be great. If there was one thing I would love to have, I think one of my crewmates said this in an event earlier, but I would love to be able to have my personal cell phone and to actually have it work up here.
What is the internet speed like? Is it good enough to get YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than dial-up when I first started. And actually, when I was here 7 years ago, it was more like dial-up. And so we got to realize, too, we have kind of two different internets. We have the internet that's just on board station here that we use for our work day. And that's pretty fast, actually. It's not too bad. And then we have connectivity to the ground where we actually have access to the internet, to searches and YouTube and all of those kind of things. And sometimes YouTube can take a little bit to load up, but we can watch it.
That's very cool. You guys also gave us a great lesson in how to float. Thank you for that. But are you able to propel yourself at all without touching anything? If you blow or sneeze or sort of swim?
You know, I have wanted to try some experiments. Our vacuum cleaner it has a nozzle on the back, but it has a diffuser on it. But I'm thinking if you took that diffuser off, you might be able to generate just enough to notice a slight movement if you tried to ride that thing like the kids from Harry Potter. But I think you can. It's mostly if you figure out how to use your body to create movement. And so when you spend a lot of time flying, you do little things like you can actually just kind of hula hoop your way around, and you can learn to do, one direction back and then the other. And so I sleep in the ceiling, in the overhead, and so I generally have to flip upside down, at the beginning or the end of the day. And so you learn to maneuver yourself using, what physics gives you.
That's really cool. How much do you follow the news of the Earth while you're up there?
Well, we do have really good connectivity. I generally start my morning. Hopper and I are both morning folks. We wake up in the morning and generally work out. And I'd say one of the things we both do is we just catch up on the news, space news and other things. And so I read the paper, or I read a digest, a summary of what's going on, specifically going on in the military. And then I just read kind of a digest, a summary of the big stories for the day. And then I use that to determine if I want to follow up on things. But I think we stay pretty abreast of what's going on. But you do lose the sort of flipping channels and seeing kind of what's going on in our local, in the local area right there around where we live. But, because everything up here, as Hopper says, is very deliberate. You have to want to find out something in order to find it out. There's no sort of casual coincidences or flipping channels and seeing a story on the television.
Right, and no chatter around the water cooler. We Earthlings, as you know, have been basically quarantined in our homes for a year. We would love your tips for living in close quarters with the same people without getting on each other's nerves.
Oh, tips for not getting on each other's nerves. Well, one is communication, right? I think you have to communicate. You have to, constantly back and forth, let people know. And you also, just have to be accommodating as well and be understanding and recognize that everything can't be just the way that you want it, that you're a part of a team up here. And so I think that goes a long way towards being effective. I don't know, Victor, you got some tips?
It's really interesting. One of the things that I have found up here is how important it is to not just take care of your team, but to take care of yourself so that you have a little left over when maybe somebody does need help. And that actually has been a really surprising aspect of this for me. I'm generally a very extroverted person. I want to be where the action is. I want to be where the people are, and I want to be in the middle of the conversation. But I found in the 4 months that I've been here, one of the things that I value the most is that morning time when I get up and there's no one else up yet, or I'm just working out and I've got my music on and my headphones and I can zone out. And so I really appreciate that downtime, that sort of alone time to recharge. And I think that's really important in this pandemic era where folks are constantly at home working, helping out with the kids, helping out with homework. It's important to have a way to recharge, whatever that is. For some people, it's working out. For some people, it's reading a good book. Whatever it is for you, finding a way to do that, meditate, prayer, calling friends and family, but whatever it is, knowing how you can charge your own batteries back up.
But wouldn't you say there's also a space station personality? I mean, not anyone could do this.
Well, I think I think a lot of people could do this, but I also do think that when NASA goes through its selection process, that is at the forefront of their selection thoughts. The characteristics that they want to see in astronauts are people that can come up here and live in tight quarters with someone for 6 months at a time. And so I think, in general, most of us have that kind of personality where we understand the value of teamwork, we understand the value of working together, we understand what it takes to do this mission, and so it works out pretty well.
Fantastic. In other news, I'm also working on a story about space junk. And I was just wondering, have you guys ever had an encounter or a concern about space debris?
Well, speaking of encounters, we've had two really unique situations here, two things that we've jettisoned. So we just got rid of, maybe last month, the external pallet that comes up on the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle, the HTV cargo ship. And we have been upgrading the batteries to those new lithium-ion batteries. And so we got rid of the old batteries by packing them back on that pallet, and then we jettisoned the pallet. it's like the size of a school bus, a small school bus. And so we got rid of that, and that's now orbiting, and it will deorbit, enter in the atmosphere, and burn up. But the first experience I had up here with jettisoning something was actually on my very first spacewalk. They took me on the robotic arm and took me nadir toward the Earth, and it happened to just be at night. It was dark, and I had to throw away a cover from an antenna that we installed on the Columbus laboratory, and that was really unique. But that is also in space. It's going to deorbit, enter, and burn up in the atmosphere as well.
But I would also say that throughout our time up here, the military, the Air Force, the Space Force are constantly monitoring the debris in low Earth orbit, and they will let NASA know if something is going to get close to the space station. And so I would say, maybe once, twice a year, we have situations where something is going to get close. Sometimes we have to move the station. Sometimes we don't. So it is a constant something that we're always worrying about up here, and something that we have to be mindful of.
I took the liberty of asking Twitter what questions they'd like you to answer, and so I come representing Earth here. They want to know, what do you miss most while you're up there from back home?
First, my family. I miss my family. Just, it's great. I really think that our crew up here, the 7 of us, Kate, Sergey, Shannon Soichi, and Hopper, and it feels like a family. We aren't just on a camping trip. We live here. And I mean, we've been here so long that we have become a family. But I miss my family. And, I just can't wait to see my kids at the airport or wherever I bump into them first and get a big hug from them and get a hug and a kiss from my wife. That's just a piece of my life that I've had to put on hold. And even though I can talk to them on the phone, I don't have physical contact with them. So I miss my family primarily.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. That is the thing you miss the most. But I will also tell you, one of the things I miss the most, and I didn't realize this after my first mission until I actually returned to Earth, and that is I missed weather. And I know there's been a lot of extreme weather that's happened around the United States this year, but up here, it never changes. It is always 70 degrees, and maybe that sounds pretty good for folks on the ground right now, but, it's always 70 degrees. There's no wind, there's no rain, there's no snow. No humidity. I mean, it's just constantly the same. And so I remember the last time when I got home, and the first weekend, I was just standing outside, and it was raining. And I just remember, it just made me realize how much I missed that part of living on Earth.
David, can I say one more?
Yeah.
Hearing Hopper say rain reminded me, I miss the shower.
Well, speaking of which, I guess, Victor, you don't have to answer this, but how do you wash your hair since you don't have a shower?
Victor has to work very hard at his hair. Actually, yeah, he probably does. He probably works harder on his hair than I do on mine. Yeah. We have what we call this no rinse shampoo up here. And so you just you squirt some in, you rub it around, and then you take a towel and you dry it off. And, it works pretty well. Again, if you ran into us right now, you might think we smell or something like that. But as far as all of us, no, we think we're being pretty clean.
And how about the flip side? Is there anything that you will miss from space once you're back on Earth?
I love the view that we have, and just the perspective. It's not just the view. The view is a part of it, but being able to see countries and entire portions of countries, entire bodies of water, with these eyes, not a telescope or a microscope, just to see it at my perspective, and to see the weather and the storms and lightning across the African continent. I mean, I will miss that. But I also came up here knowing that this was temporary, so I wanted to absorb as much of it as I can, and so I write a lot, and I keep a journal. And so I think when it is our time to undock and go home, I'm not going to long for it, but I will miss being able to see that, to float past the cupola and look out and see, a vast expanse of Earth. But yeah, that view is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then, of course, the other thing that you just can't get on Earth, and that's the floating. And there is something truly spectacular about that. When there's no up and down, when you can put yourself in any orientation. I mean, it's just a whole new way of going about your day that you just can't appreciate down on Earth. And unfortunately, again, from my last mission, I remember is you quickly forget what it feels like to float when you get back to Earth and you're in 1G again. And so I know I'm going to miss knowing what floating feels like.
When you're in space for a long time, obviously there are certain effects on your bones, your muscles. Are there any long-term effects that don't return once you've been on Earth for a while?
There can be, absolutely. One of the things that happens once we return to Earth, we become test subjects for the rest of our lives. NASA will, even after we've left NASA, retired from NASA, they're going to bring us back every year to give us medical checkups because there's just not a large number of people that have spent long duration time in space, and so we don't know if astronauts have higher rates of cancer or broken bones or things of that nature. Probably one of the things that I see that takes a while to get back, and that's the bone loss. It is hard to prevent having some bone loss. We do a pretty good job with our exercise on board of minimizing that. But after my last increment, I lost about 2.5% bone density, and it took years for that to kind of come back. And it doesn't always come back in the exact same way. There's different parts of your bones, different structures within your bones, and it doesn't necessarily come back the way it was before as well. So there could definitely be some long-term effects of living in microgravity.
Eyesight?
Yeah, you've heard a lot about the impacts, the edema that happens where we get the swelling of the optical nerve. And again, I had that from the last time, and it also took a couple years before that finally went away. And so I haven't really talked too much with my docs about how much that's come back this time around. But again, I suspect I do have some of those kind of impacts, and we'll see. We'll see how long it takes to get back to normal.
Wow. Well, we appreciate your sacrifice. What work are you guys doing on this particular mission? Is any of this long-term Moon or Mars preparation?
Well, maintaining the space station is one of the biggest things we do, and so there's been a lot of that. Our EVAs and a lot of the work that we do on the inside, maintenance and upkeep of the space station, is going to allow us to keep this, laboratory and exploration and production facility. So we do have like an EVA suit or an EVA system on board Surfy that we're using to look at how to maintain an EVA water system for a future exploration suit. We have other gear inside the space station that we bring to space and put it in the microgravity environment to test it out before we send it on to our eventual lunar outposts. And so we do have a few activities on board right now that are exploration specific.
Yeah, for example, we've got a new toilet that eventually is going to be installed on board. We've got a new water recycling system that they're trying to bring up and get going. Again, that would be used for that long-duration exploration. And actually, from the science standpoint, we've been doing some work with worms up here, believe it or not, and looking at how their muscles are impacted by microgravity. And so obviously that is a big deal for us up here, that muscle atrophy that can happen over a long time in microgravity. And so we're learning about that, believe it or not, from worms.
Wow. I've got one last crazy question. You indicated that there's really no up or down. So is there any reason that one of you couldn't turn head down from the camera's perspective and answer the next question? Yeah. So the blood's not rushing to your head, Victor?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, it doesn't even seem strange to me at all, because when I look around, I can find everything that I need. And so it doesn't seem weird to me until I look at Hopper and go, why is Hopper upside down? But that's really how it feels, is everything is right side up to me now.
Well, while I got you like that, as a very last thing, would you be willing to give a little hello from the space station to the CBS Sunday Morning viewers, and we'll use that as a sort of teaser?
Yeah, you bet. So you want to do it together?
Sure.
Okay, so just what? Good morning, CBS Sunday Morning?
Sure. All right.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Good
morning, CBS Sunday Morning.
You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much for this. Do you ever wear shoes?
When we exercise. when we exercise. But most of the time, and, it's kind of funny because that's one of the things that, we're in our socks a lot. And so that is one of the things that we can kind of use to, just be creative in our clothes and our choice and all of that kind of stuff. So we do tend to wear some fun socks around once in a while. Hey, and David, I'd also wanted to say, we really appreciate what you do to get the message out about science and STEM and all of that. That is hugely important. That's a big part of what we do as well. But I wanted to let you know as well, you've got, we're fans of yours as well. I don't know if I'm going to show you this, but this is our crewmate, Dr. Shannon Walker. And that was you and her on I think it was the second to the last shuttle launch. So big fans up here of you as well.
Oh, my gosh. You've made my life. Thank you, Mike and Ike. This is the greatest.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
And thank you to all participants from CBS Sunday Morning. Station, we're now resuming operational comm.